According to the annual information statement in 2019, the Australian International Military Games, aka the Invictus Games, filed that they had no employees, no full-time, no part-time, no casual employee, and yet they had $4.7 million in employee expenses. How does that happen? I have questions, and I'm not pointing fingers. I'm just asking questions here today. Hi, my name is Rachel. If you don't know me, I am an airline pilot by day, and when I'm on the ground, I like to run my cheeky little satirical website called Montecito Minimalist. And then I also, apparently, I like to study charities now, because that's becoming a thing. So last week, if you didn't catch that video, I went over the Invictus Games for Vancouver. Now, the Invictus Games in Vancouver is different than Invictus Australia because this actually started off as, it was a couple of different things. It started off as the AIMG, the Australian International Military Games, which then became the Veteran Sport Australia post 2018, and then became Invictus Australia in 2021. So lots of like layers and stacking there, but this is going to be just focused on that particular group, not the games itself. If you want to see that breakdown, that's last week. Again, tried to find how we could do $10.8 million in accommodations for the games. Couldn't get to that number. Also couldn't really get to the $11 million for the 90 people that they said they hired. And that's because the budget was redacted. That's right, a charitable contract was between the charity and said government was redacted. I'll have that link down in the description below. But today we're just going to go over just like the breakdowns. I just want to kind of take you through it. It's interesting to me because I don't know of other charities where they have like kind of different layers of the same entity. It seems like the Invictus name was licensed by them, but I'm not entirely sure. So we are just going to learn about this together. Now, Invictus Australia, I just told you how it started, but we're going to go to their FAQs page on the website. And it says, what does Invictus Australia do? We support and encourage former serving and serving members of the defense community and their families as they connect and engage with their communities through the power of sport, grassroots level, or internationally to assist with recovery, rehabilitation, reintegration, or proactively manage well-being. And they do this through sporting events, okay? And we'll focus on that in about a minute or so. Keep going with the FAQ. Do you provide funding support to help me with the sport? While Invictus doesn't provide, or while Invictus Australia don't provide direct financial assistance to individuals, we can recommend where to find funding sources in the community, depending on your individual circumstances. So it doesn't sound like they give grants. Cross-checked this with their financial statements. That's true. And then what impact does my donation have on veterans and their families? And it says your financial support allows us to fund and expand our team of veteran engagement managers, members of the defense community working on the ground in local communities, collaborating with veterans and their families, sporting organizations, government, and ex-service organizations to improve health and well-being outcomes. Also allows us to run more adaptive come and try days in our local communities, and annual defense sport days, et cetera, et cetera. And also we send out athletes for Invictus and the Warrior Games. So that's the FAQs there. And if you go and you look at their fundraising, it doesn't seem like they fundraise a whole lot, which isn't, I mean, it's not a big deal, but I found out, oh, okay, it's more about like government grants, which makes sense, right? Because it's you know, it was started by a veterans council. So if we look here, I think this is a typo. I think they meant 2025 here. But if we look here in the Invictus Games, meet the 33 former and current serving Defence Force members for Team Australia for the Invictus Games. And we can scroll down, and it looks kind of like they tend to send 30 or so people to the games. Here's all of them. Here's all the games. And if they don't send them to Invictus and there's a Warrior Games, they send them to the Warrior Games, which is the American version of Invictus. So, fabulous, wonderful corporation. There it is, $143,294 so far that we've raised. And I'm looking down here, and there's stuff here from like 2022. So I think this is like total from individuals and teams. And then we can go to our team here, and all these people have wonderful, sparkling resumes, awesome people, gold medalists, like retired military, awesome. We've got patrons and ambassadors, our team, and Invictus Australia board. It's very cool. All these people are awesome. Prince Harry's not listed anywhere on here. Now, he hadn't, up until whatever it was last week or something, he hadn't actually been back to Australia since I think he was a royal, so that's 6-7 years ago, something like that. So, I mean, I get it, right? Because that obviously makes sense, but it seems like they're sort of licensing the name here. And yeah, there he is. They're front and center. He is on their website. He is in the news. So I think those are the Jubilee medals for attending his grandmother's Jubilee. And when it comes to the events, they hold a lot of events. So really cool. So 4+ years, 1.6 thousand events and counting. It's about 400 events a year. So cool, right? Awesome. Most of it is free. There's one here. It's like $22, right? But it's for 9 classes. Like they're all really good deals. Yeah, it's cool. You can go and take a look. I'll have all these links below. So what I thought was, okay, let me go see the numbers. And so some lovely saintly friends, we'll put it that way, sent me down this path because I was going to do Freedom of Information Act request, but they're like, no, it's right here. So I went and I looked, and for 2025, they have these financial overviews. And so here it says that the expenses were $3.2 million, and 66% of that went to the employees. Okay. And then $1 million went to other expenses. Okay. Now, I'm just learning about this stuff, so bear with me here. But when I look down here, part of the pie chart does say grants and donations made for use in Australia and grants and donations made for use outside of Australia. Notice those are not represented in the pie chart. Because if you go and you look, if you actually click, I like the AIS. I read through the reports too, but I like the AIS because it's sort of like a comprehensive overview. If you go and you scroll down here and you look at their numbers, they do not give grants and donations for use in or outside of Australia, like ever. Like I've never seen that. So I don't know how the events that they're running, I don't know if if those people are giving up their time or if they're just being paid as contractors. I'm not really sure. But anyway, I went through and I looked at the comprehensive income statement for every year. And what I ended up doing was I put them in an Excel sheet for us to look at together because, as you can see here, in 2019, there was no employees listed. And yet somehow they had, and remember, this is 2019. This was published in early 2020. So this isn't something that like has just been published and this might be a typo. Like it says in black and white, full-time employee 0, part-time employee 0, casual employee 0, volunteers 1,200, but volunteers don't typically get paid. And when you scroll down here, it says $4.7 million in employee expenses. Anyway, so in order to visualize everything, I went ahead and I did a nice little Excel sheet for us. So if you look here, I have this broken down by year, their gross income, how much of that was the government, expenses, and then how much was actually paid out to the employees. So Invictus Australia came about in 2021, so that's why that bar is highlighted there. But you can kind of see a little bit here in this chart. The statements were done differently before Invictus Australia came into the picture. So if you look at 2019, that year that they didn't have any employees, they didn't have a lot of government grants, but they had a lot of expenses, so much so that they were actually in the red. And then the employee workforce, again, took 4.7 million, same as the 2018 year, but the 2018 year listed 50 employees, 51, but there was one that said casual employee, which I don't know what that means. So I ended up just putting the 51 as like a reminder, even though it said 49 full-time, part-time was one, and then casual employee was one. Yeah, we'll just leave it at that. I don't want to make any assumptions because we are not, remember, we're not a gossip channel, we're a fact channel. Lots of other gossip pages out there. So if we look at 2019, they're sort of in the red. 2020, obviously we know what happens there. Gross income, $11,000. This looks like it was from their investments. And if you look at the expenses, it's still $535,000, even though the whole world was shut down. Now, if you look at the 2020 statements, the financial statement on the actual page 21, it does say Patrick Kidd continued to perform CEO duties on a voluntary basis throughout the year, and Charlotte Hayes continued to perform her CFO duties on a voluntary basis throughout the year. So why the $500,000 in expenses? Well, I mean, if we look down here, events was $23,000, and marketing obviously was none, and then IT was $123,000. So, okay. But what we really want to see, and this is where I kind of see a little bit of change here, is if you look at 2021, that is where it becomes Invictus Australia, and and on the page with all of those staff members, if you scroll all the way to the very bottom, you'll actually see the resignations. So it seemed like it was almost pretty much a fresh board during this era. And if you look at 2021, the gross income was $340,000. $312,000 came from the government, with $1 million in expenses. The employee workforce was $704,000 of those expenses for 6 employees. That summarizes 2021. Now I get it. They're ramping up, they're starting everything. They're like, okay, it's the first year. I kind of get it there. 2022, gross income of $189,000, $92,000 from the government, and you have $1.4 million in expenses. So they're in the red. Again, $1 million of that is going to the employee workforce at 71% for 6 people. Again, 2023 is $2.6 million in gross income. Government grants shoot up, right? At this point, they skyrocket. $2.1 million in government grants, with the total expenses being $2 million. So their employee workforce takes 62% of that for 12 employees, 3 part-time, 15 full-time. And then in 2024, it's $3.7 million for gross income. 3.1 of that's from the government. 2.1 of that goes directly into payroll. 2025 comes around, we have $3.7 million in gross income. Government grants is $3 million in government grants. Employee workforce, $2.1 million. At 66% of the total gross income goes to payroll for 18 employees. Now, I don't know if that's typical. If you look at 2019, because the filings were all different, pre it becoming Invictus, but there's like 10 million just sort of listed as other. There's no actual breakdown for it. I can't like figure out where everything went. But yeah, if we look at the rest of this stuff, what's interesting is that the other expenses, they're broken down into not actually a lot of categories. It's just marketing, events, and finance, and like IT. So all other expenses from the Invictus years, so remember, excluding payroll, they're all in like the 30s, like upper 20s to upper 30% goes to other. So marketing, 2021, obviously that went pretty high, right? Because that was the first year. 17% of their budget went to marketing. And then it's just been, 6, 7, 8% after that for marketing expenses. Now, I don't know if that's just ads. I don't know if that includes like their park runs. Well, park runs I think are volunteer led, but like, I don't know if that includes like, is that for like it being in the gym, like, what I don't understand is that just ads? I don't know. I'll skip events for now, but then we go to just IT, right? This is web hosting, finance, admin. I'm thinking maybe office space, right? And this hovers 10% that first year that it opened. And it's kind of settled in like the 6-ish percentage range, 8.3, 5.7, 5.576, right? The events I'm thinking are actually the Invictus and the Warrior Games. And remember, these are 30 athletes. So I'm assuming that this is going to be training. This is like training camps leading up to the games. Perhaps this is transportation. I don't know. I can't find anything confirming that the athletes have to pay their way into Invictus via the Invictus Games or the Warrior Games. So I don't know if they have to fundraise. So I'm not sure what this is, or are these events, is this events where, they're paying the yoga instructor, to sponsor her class or his class so he can teach? I don't know. But, for 30 to 35 veterans, for, about 20 cents on the dollar being donated or helping them out directly. I don't know if that's, customary in the charity world. I am just learning about this stuff. This stuff interests me, and so I don't know, is 60% usually where it kind of falls for charitable, contributions? That like, I know that most of my donation is going to go to the employees and the staff. I'm not entirely sure. So again, if you could, I always thought that like when you did charity, I felt like the people did it. I thought a lot of this was like volunteer based. But again, I'm naive the way of the world. I make metal tubes fly through the sky. I don't know about any of this stuff here when it comes down to charities. But I think what's interesting, and there's a couple questions here, which is, when the organization was still in its early operating model, why was payroll such a large portion of their spending? What measurable services, were veterans and families actually receiving in exchange for these additional payroll costs? How many events were there? Athlete sponsorship didn't drastically increase, but if you notice, the government grants did. Did the higher staffing levels translate into a broader reach, stronger community programming, or better athlete support? And is the level of staffing matching the scale of delivery that's being claimed? Basically, is the money really getting to the veterans? But to give you a sense of scale of how much the games spent, okay? Because remember, this is Invictus Australia. This is like the fundraising committee. This is not the games itself. But I looked at all the numbers starting from 2021 and onward, and I added them all up, 340,000, 189,000, all that good stuff. And I went all the way down, and so here is their gross income added up together. It comes out to $11,151,641. This is over 5 years. This is thousands of events, 1.6 thousand events, right? This is payment for staff. This is marketing. This is IT. This is, right? It's $11.1 million. For Invictus Vancouver, for 9 days, accommodation and catering had a budget of $10.8 million. For 9 days. Invictus Australia has been running for 5 years, okay? And paying what looks like pretty good salaries, I would say. And helping out, I think, a lot of people. And sponsoring 30 athletes a year. And if you look at the budget for the Invictus Games Vancouver workforce, remember, this was 90 employees. I don't know over how long. It doesn't say, because that part of the budget is redacted. But that said that they had a budget for $11.1 million. $11,168,869 was to go to 90 employees for maybe 9 days of work in Vancouver, or maybe up to 2 years. But do you see in the sense of scale how $11.1 million for a charity over the course of 5 years, even though 66% goes to payroll. But do you see how much more impact Invictus Australia had versus the week in Vancouver? Now, again, I'm not putting any veterans down. If you participated in the games and it helped your mental health, for those volunteers, that is very noble. That is wonderful that you did that. I love that. I am just wondering where the money went. And when you have something for accommodation and catering, and I cannot, and this is in the last video, but I couldn't get to 10.8 million with the budget that they gave me. So the fact that for $200,000 more, I can go and run a charity for 5 years, that's just to give you the scale of how much money was actually being spent at Vancouver for the Invictus Games. That's pretty much all I wanted to say on this one. Yeah, I would love to know if you guys want to write in. You can write in montecito-minimalist.com. I would love to know if you guys went to the games, if you guys volunteered at the games, if you participated in the games. If you're an ex-Invictus employee and you want to tell me about, it doesn't have to be Sydney, it doesn't have to be Vancouver. You can tell me about anything you want. I'm here to listen. Judge-free zone here, man. I'm just posting numbers. That's all I'm doing. But yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to say on this one. And I'll keep digging. I'll keep looking. I'll see what the other games sort of look like. There wasn't really a whole lot published, but yeah. I think what I also might do is I might go and look at other charities and just see is this kind of the industry standard? Yeah. So anyway, I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you very much for watching. And I will leave up the entire spreadsheet for a minute if you guys want to take a look at it, or take a screenshot and then zoom in, cross-check my numbers and I'll leave all the links down in the description below as well. Yeah, I'll see you guys next week. Bye, everyone.